Super Rugby AU Force get a second win over a team which is not named the Tars. Rebels essentially let the Brumbies off the hook for that second spot. And the Reds come back to ensure first place finish for them, putting the Brumbies essentially into second. So the only battles from here on out are essentially for that third spot. It's just the Force and the Rebels battling it out. First and second are pretty much decided. But either way, we'll go through these two games, talk about some of the stats, main events, and yeah, you guys can let me know your thoughts on how things went at the weekend. Both games had grandstanding finishes, that is for certain. I will just start with the first one. Let's just get into it. The first one, which was the Rebels and the Force. Now, again, this one wasn't the easiest watch, but the last kind of 5-10 minutes were like, box office stuff. So if you sat through the first, 60 plus minutes, good on you for sticking around, and you were rewarded with a bit of a treat at the end. It's kind of one for the argument that a low-scoring, defensive-dominated game which has an exciting close finish is generally more entertaining than one team giving another one a hiding, because it was edgy seat stuff at the end. The first half, if I'm to bang off a list of events, it's essentially penalties. Hodge nails a really long one to start, 3-0. Tamua gets another one on 13 minutes, 6-0. There is a head knock. I think it's a long stoppage for Ralston. He gets a head on hip when he doesn't look very good. He goes off. So Kahui comes on. There's another penalty. I think that one's for the Force. So it's 6-3. Then the Rebels get the next one, 9-3. Tamua hits one off the post, which in the scheme of things is a wee bit costly. Kotek gets yellow carded for, I think, both a no-arms tackle and the Force conceding a few too many penalties. But that seems to wake them up, and they score the next points with a penalty, 9-6. I wrote that they've woken up at this point, so they're actually leading the game at that point. Like in terms of the yellow card time, it's 3-0 to the Force. The game, they're still behind 3 points, 9-6. 35 minutes, the Rebels do kick another one, so it ends up like going into halftime at 12-6. The yellow card is 3 apiece. Halftime stats, the Force have only had 39% possession, 31% territory, but the Rebels have knocked on 5 times to 2, and the Force's tackling percentage is 89%, so pretty high. The Rebels are at 93, so even higher. So both teams, like I said, kind of defensively very solid. So there's not a lot going forward, and you can still appreciate that, but sometimes it's not the easiest on the eye, especially when you've got kind of 7 knock-ons. In 40 minutes of rugby. That's a fair few. And it didn't seem like the conditions weren't bad, but the defensive pressure was really there. Second half started a bit quicker. I think Hosea had a big clean break. Fa'amasili was running the ball, so that's all exciting stuff. But Miotti gets the next points for the Force to make it 12-9. Tamua hits back to make it 15-9. Miotti misses a pretty easy one, I think on 70 minutes. So we're already flying through the half. But then the final 10, 74 minutes, the Force have a penalty. They decide to go for a line-out, which is a bold move, but you got to do it. They go to the back of the line-out, which is, again, pretty bold. The Rebels put up 2 jumpers, the front man, the middle man, but neither of them can get it. The ball goes sailing past to the back of the line-out. The Force maul it up. Somehow Anstey gets it. It's not the hooker. I think it was Reedy who was hooker at that time because Katu had gone off. But Anstey manages to get the ball at the back of that maul and manages to plow over. Miotti kicks a moderately easy conversion, but it's with a hell of a lot of pressure on it to make it 16-15. So, yeah, very, very, very tight stuff. What else can you say? Now, the game doesn't finish there. It kind of goes a wee bit more bonkers than that, because the Rebels are absolutely hot on attack, trying their best to obviously score any kind of points. They want points, and the Force defense is having to hold out like no other. Eventually, they're very smart. They're not contesting the breakdown. There comes a golden opportunity for them to pounce. A bit of an isolated runner from the Rebels. They pounce on it. They win the turnover. McGregor gets the ball. He kicks it from the back of the ruck. It doesn't go out. And the Rebels manage to get the bloody thing back. It's absolutely bonkers. So the Rebels pound on the Force door again, trying to get some points. Eventually they put Reece Hodge there in the pocket for the droppy. The pass is a pretty poor one from Tuttle. It goes above his head. He's still got a bit of time. He brings it down, but it's a shocking strike. And yeah, he gets taken out a little bit after the kick, actually, does old Hodge. But there's no foul play, so that is the game. It's a famous win for the Force. They would have loved that one over the Rebels. Like I said, it wasn't always pretty, but you got to give credit to the defense. They both finished with 90+% in their tackling percentage, so the defense absolutely won the day. There wasn't a whole heck of a lot of like clean breaks in this game. The Rebels still finished with 65% possession, 69% territory. They still finished with more knock-ons at 7-5. But remember, at halftime, it was 5-2. So the second half is a wee bit cleaner in terms of the handling. Run meters 393 to 229. So the Force have done pretty well with what limited possession they had. Both sides' lineouts are not that great. My neighbour's just decided to mow his lawn. He's been out in the garden for a while, trimming the verge, and now he's mowing. So I will speak a bit louder. He's got a pretty small lawn, so he shouldn't be too long. Yeah, the missed drop goal. That's the key moment of the match. Connor Betty finished with 63 run meters. He still can't score a try, that man. One clean break and one defender beaten. Lozana finishes with 16 out of 18 tackles, so a big shift from him. The Rebels had to make 91 tackles. The Force well over 100, so defensive shift really won them the day. The Force go on to play the Tars next. They'll be brimming with confidence in this one, but remember the Tars were a little bit resurgent in their last game. The Rebels will host the Brumbies, and the Rebels, they've put themselves in a difficult position, man, because if the Force can do a job over the Tars, then the Rebels are in a position where they kind of have to beat the Brumbies. So we'll see. We will see. The next game, which is the Reds over the Brumbies, this has probably been the game of the weekend so far. I am recording this at halftime during the Crusaders of the Hurricanes game, so we'll see if that one can beat this one yet. But this game was a proper cracker. Good crowd. A lot of people got out there to support the teams in Queensland. Seemed like around 20,000 people. Very good, very easy on the eye, so great to see. Interestingly, the Brumbies were opting for their line out early. They couldn't get it from the first time, their maul. Second time they went close. 5 minutes, the TMO has a look for Fainga scoring a try, and sure enough, it is given, so it's 5-0. And then on like, was it 15? Yeah, 15 minutes, Tom Banks gets an intercept ball from the Reds. He's got some serious gas, and he runs it down the other end of the field. So out of nowhere, it's 12-0. And once again, the Reds playing the Brumbies, they're having to chase the game. 22 minutes though, the Reds do that same thing they did last time. They don't panic. They get a chance to take a penalty. They take the point, so it's 12 points to 3. The Brumbies did get a yellow card warning just before half an hour for kind of too many penalties conceded. And on 30 minutes, the Reds, I was a little bit critical of at the time, they decided again to take the points. When they've just had the Brumbies kind of getting that yellow card warning, you're thinking maybe go for the jugular, double down, see if you can get a guy yellow carded, then take the points, or then opt for a try, man. See if you can just keep the pressure on. But the Reds are like, nah, we'll take the points. It's 6 points to 12. And yeah, it's obviously going to prove to be the right decision in hindsight. 32 minutes, Muirhead almost got caught out with a kick through that he was trying to wait for it to go over the goal line so he could tap it down for a dropout. Hegarty was putting under heaps of pressure, but they ruled that one was a knock-on, which kind of saved his blushes. And on 40 minutes, just before halftime, Nick White kicks a monster penalty to make it 15-6 at halftime. So the Brumbies are looking pretty good, man. They've had only 39% possession, but they've kept up with the territory 47%, so it's pretty tight. They've had the only 2 clean breaks of the game. One of them will be Banks, but they have conceded too many penalties. It is 9-5, but they're ahead on the scoreboard, and that's the main thing. Second half, though, Fluke gets a try on 50 minutes for the Reds. I thought he was a bit ordinary in the first half, but he has a good game in that second half, really comes alive. Remember, Paisami pulled out before this game started. So Fluke gets a try on the left wing. It all comes from a James O'Connor cross kick to Jock Campbell, so really well set up. James O'Connor has to be the Wallabies 10, I reckon, at this point. And then 53 minutes, the Brumbies actually have a great set play. It goes to Muirhead, and then it goes to Valtini, and it ends up with Wright getting the try. So it's a bit of a hit back. And at that point, I'm thinking, right, the Brumbies should be able to kind of see this out. Alatoa looks like he might have put in a high shot just before the hour mark. It's going to get him into trouble, but he gets away with that one, so he's a bit fortunate. But you know, things are very marginal these days. It only takes a couple of inches between a nothing and a red card, so he gets away with that one. 62 minutes, Pitaya puts in a hell of a 50-22. So we haven't seen a whole lot of them, but he catches right out on the wing. So great kick, and then he's the man who gets the try on 65 minutes. They mauled it, they cross-kicked it, and they kept playing, and they finished with like an up and under. It was a great take, hell of a try, man. That's what I'm talking about, James O'Connor. He was really just pulling the strings. I was swearing he shouldn't be kicking it, but it was working out. So I'll leave it to the experts. 22-18 at that point, so it's properly game on. Jock gets another penalty on 69 minutes to make it 22-21. Proper game on situation, and then he gets another penalty on 76. It's from a scrum, and it's 24-22. The Reds' second half comeback is complete at that point. But somehow, this game also finishes with absolute madness. I don't know how it happened. The Reds looked to maybe have conceded a penalty. The Brumbies are smashing them on attack. The Reds are being very careful at the breakdown. Eventually they win a turnover. It looks like the ball kind of bobbles out. The ref looks like he's going to point advantage to the Brumbies, but he decides not to. The Reds get the ball. They get it to Dalgunu. He kicks it, but it doesn't go out. The clock on the screen is past 80. I don't know if the referee's clock is not yet at 80, because remember, the one on TV is just indicative. It's not the official time. The official time is the ref's time. But he doesn't kick it out. It's madness. So it gives the Brumbies another chance. They go phase after phase after phase. And literally, right as I say the words, man, their handling is good to be going through these phases. The Brumbies knock it on. The Reds get away with the win. It's another 2-point margin, so it's another heartbreaker for the Brumbies. Another great comeback for the Reds. Great game to watch. Possession 57-43. Likewise, territory 51-49. So pretty close, but with the Reds having the lion's share of both. The Brumbies actually get more run meters by just under 100, 400 plus to 300 plus. Knock-ons is 7-3 with the Brumbies having more. That's a wee bit concerning. Both sides tackle pretty well, but the Reds are almost at 90%, 89. The Brumbies are at 84, which is respectable, but just not quite that like next level where the Reds are at. Individuals, Banks has 172 run meters, which is just bonkers, but remember, he does get that length of the field intercept. Fluke gets 75 with 5 defenders beating, a great shift. Stewart's the top tackler for the Reds with 10, although he does miss 4. Alatoa has 14 from 14, including that one that was a little bit dodgy. But yeah, absolutely crazy. The Reds have got the bye, and the Brumbies are away to the Rebels. So like I mentioned, that becomes a very, very important game for both the Brumbies and the Rebels. Well, not the Brumbies. The Brumbies are kind of sorted, actually. They're in second, but it's a very important one for the Rebels. So the Brumbies will have to be careful that they don't slip up. I mean, they could switch the team up if they want to give some other guys some minutes, but I'll imagine they'll want to bounce back. But anyway, yeah, good weekend of Aussie rugby. Grandstand finishes both. Madness at the end in both. Some good rugby. Anyway, you guys let me know your thoughts. I'm going to get back to the Crusaders and Hurricanes. And yeah, I'll talk to you guys again soon. See you later.